Hello everybody, Josie here. So I know June is used as a lot of people to read more queer lit, Pride Month, I think in the States. For us here in Brighton, we tend to have Pride in August, although this year it has been cancelled, so we'll see what we can do and just kind of celebrate Pride all year round, which is a fun thing to do. Also, it's currently still Queer Lit Readathon. And one of the challenges this year for Queer Lit Readathon is to read a non-fiction book. And I realised when I was going through my TBR, I hadn't decided on a non-fiction book. So I was kind of scrolling through audiobook options on my library app. And I found a book called Tranny, which I've been just dying to read, and I didn't even realise it was on audiobook from a library, so I was really excited and I've downloaded it, so hopefully I'll be able to finish it for the Queer Lit Readathon. But Tranny is Laura Jane Grace's book. Laura Jane Grace is a transgender woman, and she is the lead singer of a kind of a punk rock band called Against Me. And this is her story, her life. It sounds incredibly fascinating. It kind of has elements, obviously, her journey of her life, but then also I love rock music, punk rock music. I like loud women yelling music, so it's right up my alley. So I think the combination of the discussion on gender and queerness and trans and the kind of punk rock element of it just sounds like it's something I'm gonna love. So based on that, I thought I would do a video recommending some of my favourite queer non-fiction and also autobiographies. So I thought that would kind of be a fun video and to give you all inspiration if you're looking for more kind of non-fiction to read in the queer spectrum. So obviously that would be my first kind of recommendation, even though I've literally only done like the first minute of it. I can just tell it's going to be good, and I think her story is one that needs to be heard. Another book that I've got on audio as well is Real Queer America, Stories from Red States. So again, this is a journalist that went around in America and spoke to queer folk all around America and kind of recorded their stories and their lives. Really, really interesting. Then that is on audio as well. And then I've got some physical books here that I'm going to recommend. So I think I will start with kind of just the non-fiction books. So the first one I've got here is this gorgeous book, and it kind of looks so rainbow coloured. It is called The Little Book of Queer Icons by Samuel Alexander. And this is just really cute. It is what it says on the tin. So you've got a queer icon, the lovely Stephen Fry there, and then it talks about his life. It's just really adorable. It is a wonderful kind of history into queer culture and people you may know, some people you may not, as was the case for me. I didn't know some people. There's the lovely Margaret Cho, who I love, Margaret Cho, sorry. And it's just a cute, fun book. It's a great little gift as well. So if you're looking to add something to a gift or give somebody a gift, it's really, really sweet, and I really love this book. And then on a similar vein is this book over here. It's Queer There and Everywhere by Sarah Prager, and it's 23 people who changed the world. And again, this is, you can see I've tabbed some up there, but this is, again, you've got the kind of the queer icon, I guess, and it talks about their lives and what they did and what they kind of almost did to change the world, or to change the landscape of queerness in the world. So this is a really great book. And then the third one that I've got here that I absolutely love is this one, Queer Intentions by Amelia Abraham. This is fantastic. I have the physical book, and then I listened to the book on audio as well, because again, it was on my library. I love my library, on my library app, and I've actually listened to the audiobook twice now, and that's how much I love this. It is so fascinating. She goes around different countries, many Europe, and looks at kind of the queer scene and what it means to be queer in those countries, you know, the rights, the history, so interesting. Her at Amsterdam Pride is fantastic, and it mixes in her own personal story, her own impressions with the people she meets and kind of the history of queerness in these countries. It's really fascinating. I highly, highly recommend this book. I really, really loved it, and the audio is great. Amelia actually narrates the audiobook on the version that I have, so just really interesting, really emotive. It'll make you angry to the level of oppression and what's happened to people around the world, but also it's a wonderful, wonderful read. It's absolutely a must read. I love this book. And then more on the, so Tranny's obviously a or biography, autobiography, so more on kind of that side of the spectrum. I can't do a video these days without recommending my favourite book in the whole world, Just Kids, by Patti Smith. I love this book for many reasons, but what kind of suits this video, and particularly for this video, is Patti's relationship with Robert Mapplethorpe, who came out as gay, as queer, and they were, so it's a complicated relationship. They were best friends, they fell in love, they lived together as lovers, until kind of Robert said, actually, you know what, I think I'm gay. And then it obviously details his relationship, and they were best friends right until the end, but it details his life as well in this book, his relationship with other men, and it is incredibly fascinating. I love Robert Mapplethorpe, one of my favourite artists, one of my favourite photographers of all time. Obviously Patti Smith I adore, so I highly recommend this book, really, really interesting. And also the time, so you've got like Andy Warhol kind of pops up in here, and the whole 70s culture, really interesting culturally as well. Then the next one I've got here is Cool for You by Eileen Myles. Now this one, so Eileen Myles is like a poet, a writer, artist, and this is a autobiography, or yeah, it's an autobiography, but in a kind of an interesting way. So it's a novel, it says a novel on the front, but it uses her own experiences, and they're kind of like short stories. So it's a bit disorientating. It's a bit like almost reading a novel poem. It's really interesting. She has her own kind of format. I think you're either going to love it or you hate it, but I think it's incredibly interesting. I liked it. I love Eileen Myles. Yeah, and she's just a fascinating queer lady. I love her. Then the next one I've got here is my favourite designer of all time, and that is Alexander McQueen. I've read this book, I've read other books on Alexander McQueen, I've seen, there was a fantastic film on Alexander McQueen, documentary as well, and this is Blood Beneath the Bones, Beneath the Skin, sorry, by Andrew Wilson. This book, it just details his life. Alexander was gay, and just talks about his life and his journey and how he got to where he was, and tragically what happened and what almost drove him to his death. And he was just a genius, in my opinion. I don't think anybody has ever or will ever design the way Alexander McQueen does. I was so fortunate to see the retrospective at the V&A Museum a few years ago. I think it was at MoMA as well, and it was unbelievable, and it was unbelievably emotional as well. I went through that exhibit just with my emotions kind of up here, really heightened. But he's a fascinating person in the way he kind of, from where he came to where he went, and his life, and then kind of the pressures on his life, which probably ultimately drove him to take his own life. But yeah, just fascinating, excellent biography. Really recommend this one. And then the last one I want to talk about is this one here. It's Gluck, Art and Identity. So Hannah, I think her name was Hannah, yeah. Hannah Gluckstein is her full name, but she liked to go by Gluck, was an artist photographer. She was just really breaking boundaries at a time where kind of gender queerness and, you know, playing with your gender and your gender identity wasn't the kind of the thing it is now. It wasn't as acceptable as it is now. And she just was this pioneer. She did some gorgeous artworks which are in here, and some of you might recognize this one. So there's a book, oh god, what is the book called? I can't think of the book. I will think of the book. I'll put it in up top in editing. Oh no, The Well of Loneliness, that's it. Very famous kind of old school lesbian prose. I'll be honest, I struggled. I didn't get through the book. It's very sad. I wouldn't necessarily recommend the book, but the cover of the one that I had, and the cover of a lot of the editions that I've seen actually have this painting as the cover. Yeah, I mean, back to look. She is amazing. As you can see, she kind of really played with her gender identity and how she dressed. And this book is fascinating. I went to go actually see the exhibit that went along with this book of Gluck's art and photography, which was wonderful. But yeah, the book is really interesting. It talks about her life and her art, and really how she played with gender at a time where, like I said, it wasn't necessarily the done thing to do. So those are some of the books. I hope you took some inspiration from that. I hope there's something that you might enjoy. Let me know any great non-fiction or biographies of queer people and queer icons that you can think of, that you liked, that you would recommend. And I Hope you're all keeping well and safe as always. I'll speak to you all again soon. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.